Thank you, Sanjay, for confirmation that audio is fine. So let's start with the today's class. So as I can see, hi, very good afternoon to all of you and everybody who is meeting me for the first time, and then the rest of you, some of you have already gone with the modern course with me. So RV7 and RV5. So you have gone through that. Moreover, so now we are going to start art and culture. So RV7, and as I am able to see that RV9 is also combined. So this is the first interface with RV9. So welcome to all of you, and today is the first class of art and culture. So let's start with the agenda, that what all things we'll be studying in these art and culture classes, how many classes would be there. But for the students of RV9, just one such small introduction that you guys are meeting me for the first time. So my name is Neeraj Rao and I am your faculty for art and culture for the time being, not for the other subjects where already you have gone through. So now, art and culture, I have few questions for you then. So I have few questions for you, and these questions I would be asking in the process. But anyways, first of all, the syllabus itself, that which all stages of the exam this art and culture is important, how many questions do come from this section, and then apart from that, how many classes we are going to conduct, and what all topics we are going to see. So first of all, when it comes to this particular section of the history, it is history actually. So this particular section of the history, so you can expect in between 4 to 7 questions in the prelims examination. That is the average number of the question which we do get from art and culture. So 4 to 7 questions you can get. 4 could be the minima and 7 is not the maxima, but this is average number. And in fact, when it comes to minima maxima in art and culture, so I have seen that 3 questions minimum and then even 11 questions maximum. So this is one part. Then the second is that in mains stage of the exam, you can expect the number of questions nearly about 2 to 3 questions every year. So 2 to 3 questions every year, 2.5 questions I will say every year. But yes, it does changes that some year, for example, this year they have asked 1, last year they asked 4. Then, so there is a huge difference that last year 4 and this year just 1. So that number may change, but overall the average remains the same overall. Then in last 10 years, whatever they have asked, so on the basis of that we can say that 2.5 to 3 questions in the mains stage of exam. And many times it is a dreaded section for the students. The dreaded section for the student, there are many such myths and misconceptions about the subject that it might be boring, and then also how you will be remembering. But believe that it is not going to be boring, and it is not something which is difficult to remember. So it's only the time will tell, but let's start with the agenda of the class. So just give me 1 minute so that I can moderate your response tab. And moreover, I would like that since it's all from the home only, so first of all, see that I would like to interact with you guys on this platform only, that this response screen only. So ask whenever you are in doubt. If you have a relevant doubt, please put it out there. There is no other screen which I will be using right now. So if you have any relevant doubt, see that if it would be irrelevant, so that would be skipped. But if you have any relevant doubt, so please do mention it on this only. Because classroom setup, say there is a different mahal, there is a different environment, and different paraphernalias are there to support the class. But yes, when it is happening from off location back to home location, so those things would not be available over here. So now, chalo. So very first thing, and moreover, excessive responses screen means that only the responsible use of the screen, not for any other discussion. So let's start with the course. So I hope you all know that what is the definition of the culture. It's not something which is unknown to anybody. Okay? At least all of you must have some sort of understanding of the culture. It's only that how we put it into the words that make it different in way of writing, but otherwise understanding is there with everybody. But anyways, let's define culture. So what we call as culture. So culture is basically that we can call it as a way of life. That's the most simple explanation of the culture. It is a way of life. But when you look into the things that which goes into the way of life, so there are n number of things which makes way of life. So the way we speak, the language we speak, the food that we eat, the festival that we celebrate, the way our traditions and customs are molded, and the importance that we attach to some of these traditions and the customs, these all are the part of the culture. So it encompasses so many things that we are doing on a regular basis. On the other hand, one more thing, that culture can be said as that identity of a person. In fact, all the nations which we see in the world, they all do have a particular culture. They do identify themselves with a culture. So one of the biggest symbol of the culture is that the language itself. For example, in the European world, you can see that some sort of similarity between all the nations but there is one big difference that they have created their countries on the basis of the language. So language is one very big thing for the creation of a particular separate culture, and not only culture, but on the basis of that linguistic identity, they have gone to create a nation. So in fact, it is culture and it is identity which makes the nation. So its importance is like that. Moreover, what is art? So we are reading art and culture. So what is art? So art, I am not asking this time because I know, and you also know that 3 batches it will be very difficult to filter that what all things that you guys, all of you are writing on the responses screen. So consider it as not today's class, but most of the classes, not a monologue, but yes, it would not be exactly like the one that which used to happen from the offline classes. So hopefully that this after this January, once again, particularly I was meeting with RB7, so not any other batch. So that was fun, but anyways, that batch has ended. So hopefully in February we can meet again. So now, what is art? So when it comes to art, so art is, how we can define art? Art is that it's a kind of manifestation of one's expression. Okay, which kind of expression? So aesthetic expression, not all the expressions. You do express angrily also, we do express in different ways, but the aesthetic expression means that the one which pleases to the others, then one which pleases to the oneself. So that kind of expression is basically the art. So it is manifestation of the human expression. Then so human expression, and which expression? So aesthetic expression. So this way we can define these two subjects, these two topics, or these two words. Then it comes that why at the very first place, when you look at the syllabus of your exam, so why at the very first place this particular subject has been placed and why it is very important. Don't evaluate culture in the terms of how many questions UPSC has asked. UPSC has asked enough number of the questions from this section. So not on the basis of that, but why it is important for every country to that further have a deeper understanding of a culture, and why for an administrator it is very important to know about their own culture. So I have few instances. I will quote few instances and few of the stories over here so that you can understand some of the important things associated with the culture, and then also why it is important for you to know the culture. So the very first part which is mentioned in your syllabus, As you know that in prelims stage it is only mentioned history of India, which includes everything, which includes its culture, ancient history, medieval history, and also the modern history. But in the main stage they have clearly defined that what they will be asking. So they have mentioned that Indian art and culture with the salient aspects of architecture, then architecture, sculpture, language, literature, and different art forms. So this way they have defined the syllabus. So it means that these all topics, various art forms, and then language, literature, architecture, sculpture, these all things you must be going through. So at the very first place when it is placed, so let me that define over here rather than asking to you that why as an administrator you need to know the culture. So it is important that I hope you all must have acquainted yourself with this, the rules of the UPSC, that once you clear the prelims examination and then you fill your detailed application form, DAF form, and in that DAF form you have the cadres, right? So different cadres. So earlier there used to be the state cadres, but right now it has been changed to the not just the state but also that kind of block cadre, meaning that western blocks, eastern blocks, southern blocks. So anyways, suppose that if you belong to one of the state of the North India, suppose you belong to Himachal, then so you belong to Himachal and then you got a rank accordingly, you have gone you are getting the Kerala as the state cadre. So once you are into the Kerala, so what difficulties you may face? Yeah, so first of all, India is a diverse country. India is a diverse country, though there is a cultural continuity in this country, but in the cultural continuity there is a diversity. So it is a diverse country, and one of the very diverse thing is the language itself. So if you are from Himachal, you may be knowing Hindi, you may be knowing Kangadi, but when you are posted in Kerala area, so the one thing which is required for you is that the knowledge of the Malayalam language. And see that not everybody in Kerala would be speaking Hindi, the contact language. Not everybody in Tamil Nadu would be speaking Hindi. Then, so same is true about that not everyone, or everyone to chodo, in North India, at least in South India, you may find that speakers of Hindi, but in North India, you will not find. In Delhi, you may find people from different languages, that people using different languages, but what about the states like UP? Do you expect that a candidate of Tamil Nadu has been posted in UP, so how he will be communicating with the people of the UP? So he needs to know the regional language of that area. So in that case, the very first example which I was quoting, Himachal Pradesh and then Kerala. So you need to know the language of that particular area. When you don't know the language of that area, so obviously you will not be able to understand many of the things which are happening in the Kerala. And so you always need an interpreter. Then so you always need an interpreter, and it is up to interpreter that what he wants to convey to you. So anyways, so that's not a perfect scenario. So until and unless you know their culture, the very first part of that is the language. So you know their language, then you'll be able to understand their problems. Then you'll be able to understand their grievances. Suppose that a young lady has come to your office, you are a district magistrate, and then she has come to our office and then she is complaining to you that in Malayalam language that my newborn child has been taken by my family members and they are not giving it to me. They have given it to the orphanage, and moreover we don't know that in which orphanage they have given, because I have married to a person I have gone with a person against the wishes of my family. I'm quoting a recent case. Those who are from Kerala, they must be knowing. So if you don't know Malayalam, how you will understand that what these lady is saying and that what her problem is there, and then at the same point of time how you can understand her emotions then, so what pains he is going through. So you, until and unless you know the culture, then until and unless you know the things which are existing in that particular state, so you could not be an effective administrator. It is just one example, but there are n number of the examples which I would like to quote over here to highlight the importance of the culture. So you got to know, and moreover, whenever you get, suppose that what I said, that if you are Himachal posted in Kerala, so when you get your first posting in Kerala, so you will be trained in that particular language. There is one such thing. Then let's quote some example from the Tamil Nadu itself. So in Tamil Nadu, that many a times that the central institutions are also at the fault. Then not the fault, but they are also lacking at the understanding of the common emotions and the general emotions. Then, so when you establish a government, listen this, when you choose a government just on the basis of the people's choice, so why not some of the practices? If they are the people's choice, so then the judiciary will also have to look into the same, that if it is a people's choice, a popular choice, so then judiciary must not go overboard. I'm talking about the festival of the Jallikattu. Then, so Jallikattu is one of the very popular festival over there in the Tamil Nadu, and it is celebrated with a very high colorful fervor. So everybody seems to be enjoying that. And then what happened? Then some Tom, Dick, Harry, he filed a case that it is a cruelty against the animal. So it is a cruelty against animal, and then Supreme Court that you must have by this time, if you have gone through the polity classes, so you must have must have studied judicial activism and judicial overreach. So this is an example of judicial overreach, that judiciary, the Supreme Court, went on to stay the Jallikattu festival, and there was huge uproar and huge anger in the state of Tamil Nadu among the people. And moreover, if that is not enough, so even the most liberal of the celebrities, they also came in the support of the Jallikattu, including Rajnikant, A.R. Rahman, Kamal Hassan, everybody. So many a times these institutions, the central institution, organization, administrator, they fail to understand the emotion of the people. And when you fail to understand the emotion of the people, it will be very difficult to administer the area. So, you know that this particular section which has been kept in your paper, emotional intelligence, then, so emotional intelligence, I know that many people, they are masters who will tell a lie while looking into your eyes, and then you will not be able to notice that the person is telling a lie. So there are few masters, but not all of you. So you need to develop that sort of emotional intelligence. And that sort of emotional intelligence comes only when you know that the diverse culture of this country, and then you understand the public emotions. That is example number second. Now let me use some old examples from this one, which I often quote in many classes. I have quoted in many classes. In fact, I'm quoting from last 9 years. And many a times what has happened that the leaked videos, and then many students who have preserved their integrity up to such an extent that they leak it to every platform. So hats off to them. So yeah, I hope you get what I was trying to say. So because of that, many people know those stories, but just listen. That the next such example which I need to quote, I hope you understood what I was trying to tell you. Then the next example which I want to quote at this point of time, that 2002 there was a severe earthquake in Gujarat then, and in Gujarat that was, I think it was close to, or on the day of the 26th of Jan only, in the Bhuj area. So that is that's the most worst earthquake which we have seen in our recent past, and particularly for you, I hope all of you are millennials then. So for you millennials, it was the only earthquake that you must have seen, or you must have heard, or you, maybe if you're a child, so you must have heard. So in that particular earthquake, large number of people died. And obviously that you know that when earthquake happens in the area, so biggest problem is a shelter then. So shelters must be created, and apart from the shelter, the basic amenities include the food then. So food, clean water, these all kind of thing. And in 2002 India was not a very progressive India, though today also we are not highly progressive, though in jingoistic terms we may be progressive, but otherwise we are not then. So we are just kind of, you must have heard you must have read in some of the economics and that also polity, the Hindu growth then. So we are still in that phase. In fact, many a times that you will figure out that even India's growth is lesser than the Hindu rate of growth. So let's come to the point that India was not that rich at that point of time. And moreover, we needed aid from the different countries then. So one of the country which provided aid to us and that was US. Then, so that was US, and moreover, what worked for India, because in 1998, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee here has gone with the decision of the nuclear test, so the relation of India started to deteriorate with many European world countries and then also the US. But it was the personal chemistry of the Bill Clinton and Atal Bihari Vajpayee that everything was brought on track. So at this point of time, the biggest aid provider to India was US, and the immediate aid which was required was not the money but the food delivery. So food delivery, and at this point of time, US was doing the food delivery. They were dropping the food from the choppers, their own choppers. So what happened, that the people who are in a mourning phase, then that who are mourning for their deads, and then also they are still in the sorrow. Now, after 1 week or so, they started to protest against US then. So they started to protest against US, and they stopped taking those food packets then. So those food packets, and then they became very angry towards that the then government. You know what was the reason? The reason was that US was delivering food packet, and it was delivering in the food packet, it was delivering the non-vegetarian food. But the area which was highly affected, it was a highly Vaishnav area. Majority of the people Vaishnav, meaning that non-vegetarian people. And at the same point of time, even the non-veg would have not been main issue, but it was a Hindu-dominated area and non-vegetarian area. What happened? Then they were delivering some beef in that particular packet. So see that the culture of US, that they don't discriminate between that. This animal belongs to this religion, that religion. But in India, it happens. Okay? It can hurt the sentiments of the people. So it hurted the sentiments of the people. Whose fault is this? The fault is from both the sides, that Indian side also and from the side of US. It is a job of the US administrators, then the foreign officials of the US, and then also with whom they are cooperating and coordinating, the Indian officials, that they must be informed that what is the culture of that particular area, so that it must not lead to some other kind of flare-up. So the flare-up happened, and then they got to know that it is a cultural mistake that they did in that particular state. One example. The next example, once again listen, that another example. So next example is the example from Bihar. Nowadays many other states have taken the place of the Bihar, but in 90s it was only Bihar which was known as the sorrow of the flood. Then, so flooding situation was quite worse in Bihar, and very often it happens, particularly the belt, which is the northern belt of the Bihar, which is very close to the foothills of the Himalaya. And these perennial rivers which are emerging from the Himalayas, they bring a lot of water, particularly in the rainy season, and then also a lot of rain happens in the rainy season. So nowadays, as you know, that Kerala has taken the place of Bihar in terms of rain, and then in terms of flood, and then also Assam and Meghalaya is always there. So Assam. So at that point of time, it is a thing of 1997. And many of you must not have born even at that point of time. Some of you. So listen. So there was this very severe flood in 1997, and then it is said that more than 1,000 villages were drowned in that particular flood. So in that flood situation, once again, what are that those people who are rescued? So what they need? So first of all, they need a safe shelter, and apart from the safe shelter, they need clean drinking water, food, and these all sort of things, the basic amenities of the life. So these from 1,000 villages, NDRF teams, they rescued large number of people. These all people were stationed in a one such camp, and then obviously, how come हम बगल के गांव के तो नहीं जानते? So how come they'll be knowing about the people from 1,000 villages? So the people were not knowing each other. They were living in the camps. There are a large number of the women, large number of young ladies, large number of children. They are living in the camps, and then in these camps, people don't know each other. Then, so all of a sudden, what happened after a few days, that rather than demanding those basic commodities, basic things, these ladies of this particular camp, they started demanding one such thing which was not expected by the authorities, and that unexpected demand was sindoor. Then So unexpected demand was sindoor or vermilion. So vermilion. So it was unexpected thing was sindoor. You know what was that? So it is an element of culture. Moreover, that particularly many parts of that, many rural areas of the India, that if the women, their husbands are alive then, and if they don't get sindoor, so they are not putting it on their forehead, so they consider it as a kind of misfortune will happen to their husbands, their families. Then, so the symbol means that they will always, they have this kind of faith and trust in this symbol of the sindoor, that it will keep them safe. So that is one such point. Moreover, many young ladies also started to demand it, to put it on their forehead, because these young ladies were targeted by the men, particularly many, not all, but many men. You know the lascivious nature of the human society, that there are some elements who will always be like that. So looking at that, these unknown girls and then unknown women, and considering them as either widows and orphans, many men started to pass lewd comments on them, and then also started to make some kind of obscene offers to them. So to keep them away and to give them a deterrence that they are not orphans, they do have their husbands, they are still there with them, they demanded this particular sindoor to put it on forehead to safeguard the dignity of the womanhood. So a smallest element of the culture could be this much important. Then, so the administrators were surprised that with this demand. So with this demand, I hope you understood. Let's come to the one last example. So culture, do you consider that if I ask this question to you, that culture is static or dynamic? So I know that you must be saying something, but culture is dynamic. It is not always static. It is just like that you guys must have read the Constitution. In Constitution, what you have read? So in Constitution, you have read the basic features of the Constitution. Then, so what it says, that there are some of the things in the Constitution which cannot be changed. Then, but that does not mean that Constitution would not be progressive. There is always a scope of addition and lawmaking. So Constitution is also dynamic, but basic structure would always be there. Same is true about the culture, that there is a basic structure of the culture, but that does not mean that culture will not evolve. So culture is an evolving phenomena. So culture is an evolving phenomena, and it changes, then it adds few things. Keeping its basic structure intact, it changes, then it adds new things from the world. So for example, that if you look at that, if you are not born before 1990s, so then you can ask your parents that what was the system in India, that what all type of things which we were using, and then what we use right now, there is a hell lot of difference. Then, so there is a hell lot of difference. So it means that there has been some evolvement in the Indian scenario, in the day-to-day behavior. So one of the day-to-day behavior changes, and then not the behavior changes, but one of the very important thing which has happened in this period, that there is a heavy emphasization on some sort of education. Then, so some sort of education. So the educational level has changed. Then, so education level has changed in India. Moreover, let's talk about that evolving identity of India. So I said that culture is also identity. When you go to any other country and looking at your skin, looking at your facial features, they get to know that you are an Indian. And if they don't get to know that, if you are from your facial features and then all those traits, so when you speak some language, they get to know Indians, and then they do make a salutation in that particular language. So this is one such hint of knowing your identity, or the foreigners get to know about your identity. If you're eating some of the Indian food like dal, chawal, idli, dosa, then and vada, sambar, whatever, so then also they get to know that they must be Indian. But there is one more instance. Let me tell you that this instance is from the Amsterdam airport, where our very own celebrated English freak Sasi Tharoor was sitting there. He was working on his laptop. He was writing, and he's a writing freak, so he always writes something. So he was writing something on his laptop, and then from very long time there was a Dutchman who was staring on him, and then after staring that after a long time, that then he came closer to Mr. Tharoor, and then he said that, can you fix my laptop? So then he asked why. So then he said that, no, I know you are an Indian then, and Indians, and you are an Indian, and since you are working on your laptop, so I know that you are IT professional, so you can fix my laptop. So this is one evolving identity of Indians, in particularly the western part of the world. That western part of the world, if Indians are going to the western part of the world, people consider they are software engineers, they are from IT industry. So this is what got changed in the 90s, that from 90 to this particular period. So I hope you got that we have that culture is evolving also, and what is the importance of culture. So let's start at what we needed to start in this particular part. So I hope you all must have understood that what I was trying to say to you. So now let's come to the syllabus part. So what all things which we'll be studying in this particular part. So supposedly, listen, that 13 to 14 classes would be there. I'm keeping 13 as a minimum number of classes and 14 would be the maximum number of classes. So in these all classes, what all topics we are going to study. So let me write these all topics, and I hope everything is audible to you. So all the themes that we are going to study. So the theme number 1, which is going to be the most elaborate theme and the most important theme from the culture. Then in terms of the number of questions asked in the UPSC, and also developing your own understanding of the ancient Indian and medieval Indian culture. So this particular topic is architecture and sculpture. Architecture and sculpture. So this is the most elaborate topic, in which there are many divisions which we'll see. Then the second topic after architecture and sculpture, second we will move into the religion and philosophy. So religion and philosophy. So in architecture and sculpture lesson, we will talk about that we will be studying the ancient Indian architecture, sculpture, and medieval Indian architecture, and then the British period architecture. So these 3 periods we are going to cover in the architecture and sculpture. Then when it comes to religion and philosophy, so listen what all religions we are going to see over here. The religions which we will be seeing over here is the Buddhism and Jainism. Okay? So it is Buddhism and Jainism, and then Zoroastrianism, and apart from that, the Orthodox Indian philosophy and the heterodox Indian philosophy. So 2 types of philosophy, Orthodox and heterodox Indian philosophy. Then after, the third one would be, after this, religion and philosophy, we will enter into the classical dance, and then fourth would be classical music. So classical dance and then classical music, and fifth would be, after this, language and literature. Language and literature. This is the fourth topic, fifth topic, and then after fifth topic, let me write all of them. Sixth would be Indian painting. Indian painting. And then seventh would be Bhakti and Sufi movement. Bhakti and Sufi tradition. Bhakti and Sufi tradition. So these are the 7 major topics that we are going to see in this particular art and culture syllabus. So these are the 7 topics, and let me assign the number of classes which would be required for these all. So 1 for this, 1 for this. Language and literature can also happen in one class. Classical music also 1. Dance, it takes 2 classes. So by this time, how many we have written? That 4 to 6. Religion and philosophy, it takes 2 classes. And architecture and sculpture, the minimum number of classes I am keeping is 5. But many a times it can go till 7 or 6 also. Okay? So 5 to 6 I will keep this. So that's how 13 to 14 classes may be required in this particular section. So these are the things that we are going to study. And let's start with the very first chapter, which is the architecture and sculpture. So architecture and sculpture. And listen that in this particular section, though today I'll not be showing you any images, but yes, from the next class onwards, tomorrow, I think we don't have class tomorrow, but anyways, next week whenever we have, so I'll be showing you some images then. So those images we'll see over here that's related to this architecture and sculpture. So now we can start. I hope if you wanted to write it down, so you have written it down. Acha chalo, one more discussion before starting, that the number of questions from these all section. Okay? So let me tell you that very often the Bhakti Sufi tradition, every 3rd year, it has become a kind of a favorite topic of the UPSC. So 3rd year, 1 question from the Bhakti or Sufi tradition in the mains exam, and easy question. This year there was 1 question which was one of the quite easy questions. Okay? Then Indian painting, 3 or 4 year. After every 3 or 4 year, 1 question in the prelims examination. Mains they have asked little less, but prelims examination. Language and literature. So in last 10 year, 3 questions in the mains examination, and 3 to 4 questions in the prelims examination. Then classical music, once again 3 to 4 questions in the prelims examination. In mains they haven't asked in last 10 years. Classical dances, so 1 question in the mains examination, but every alternate year, the large number of questions are from this. So last 10 years, we can say that 7 to 8 questions were there from the classical dances. Religion and philosophy, the most favorite of the UPSC. So most favorite of the UPSC, and from this topic, particularly the Buddhism and Jainism. So they have asked n number of the questions. So that if 10-year paper is there, so you can say that 11 to 13 questions from this section, which means that at least 1 question every year from this section, and more than 1 could also happen. Then when it comes to the architecture and sculpture, so that is the most important topic of the art and culture, and particularly in the mains stage of exam also and prelim stage of exam also. So 40% of your prelims paper comes from the architecture and sculpture, and same is true about the mains exam, that 60% of your paper is architecture and sculpture. So this is what is about that the number of questions, the trend which has been there in the previous years. So let's begin with the very first topic, that is architecture and sculpture. So anyways, I just wanted to know that I don't think that in any of the batches, if it is 5, 7, 9, so in any of the batches that ancient and medieval I have gone through. Okay? Particularly 5, I remember that with you guys only modern part was complete, and 7 also only with you modern part is complete. 7 I know much more better way, because I was able to see you in front of me in the classes itself. So 9 for you, it is the very first class. So let me create some flow chart related to this topic. You also need to create at this point of time. Okay? So let's begin with the very first topic, and that is architecture and sculpture. So please mention this title, architecture and sculpture. Architecture and sculpture. So architecture and sculpture, I will give you some time to ask the questions. See, I have devised a method that how it cannot be distracting also, and at the same point of time your questions could be addressed. So after some point of time, I will enable this response screen. If you have any related query, you please ask. And I know that you must be asking about the reference material in this particular section. So that discussion also we will do in the today's class only. So when it comes to architecture and sculpture, we will divide this particular topic into the three zones, and one would be the ancient. So the very first we will look at the ancient, that in ancient what all things we are going to study. So in ancient, let me write it at the very first place. So in ancient, we are going to start with the Indus Valley civilization. Once again, I am making it very clear and put it in your heads. It is culture of the Indus Valley civilization that you are going to study, not the history of the Indus Valley civilization. Put it in your memory that what you are going to study in this section is the culture, the architecture and sculpture, not their history. Okay? So the history part will be done in the history part. Okay? So keep this in mind. So Indus Valley civilization. So we will see that entire architectural things associated with the Indus Valley civilization. Then after Indus Valley civilization, we will look at the Maurya age art. Maurya age art. So Maurya period. Then after Maurya period, we will look at post-Maurya art. Post-Maurya art. Then after post-Maurya art, we are going to see Gupta art. And after Gupta art, the last one, South Indian art. South Indian art. So these are the topics that we are going to touch in the ancient portion. Indus Valley civilization, its architecture and all the art related things. Maurya age art, post-Maurya, Gupta, and then South Indian art. So these are the topics of the ancient. Let's come to the medieval. Moreover, let me tell you one more thing. That the focus of the Indus Valley civilization, that there are few things which are the focus. So for example, the focus of the Indus Valley civilization would be that it's urban planning, it's town planning. And then when it comes to the Maurya age arts, the focus of this age is the pillar and stupa. Then when it comes to the post-Maurya age, the focus of this age is the sculpture, the three styles of sculpture, Gandhar, Mathura and Amravati. Gupta age art. So the focus of this stage is the temple architecture, and so is true about the South Indian art, the temple architecture. So these are the focus, but that does not mean that only temple will be studying in the Gupta, only stupa will be studying in the Maurya. No, these are the focus which I am telling you. But apart from that, many other art initiatives also we will be looking at. So this is so since you guys have not gone through the classes of the ancient, so let me write the ages also. So this Indus Valley approx age 2600 to 1800 BC. Then and Maurya age, it is from 300, just 1 minute, 321 to 185 BC. Post Maurya age, so we can count it from 185 approximately. देखो ये confirmed dates नहीं है कि इसी दिन से start हुआ. These are the approximate dates or ages, ठीक है? So 185 onwards till 250 AD. So this is 185 BC till 250 AD. and Gupta art, we can start with the 319 AD till 550 AD, and then South Indian art, we are going to see this from 600s AD till 1100 AD. So this is rough period. Then let's come to the next one, which is, and please create this chart. It's going to be highly useful in the later stages when you are revising, when you are studying. So whenever you will be confused that which part you are studying, where it belongs to, you will have to look back at this chart. Okay? So let's come to the medieval period. So in medieval, so there is two division in the medieval. So the one part would be the part of Delhi Sultanate. Okay? So just give me a few seconds. So here I can mention Delhi Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate, and in this Delhi Sultanate there would be two type of art. Okay? So two type of art, and the number one I will be writing that imperial, and second one would be provincial. So imperial and provincial. And when it comes to imperial, so basically here what we need to understand that this imperial is quoting towards the sultans of the Delhi. So that these different dynasties which ruled in Delhi, their contribution to architecture, that will keep in the imperial, and the provincial would be that in the different provinces at the time of the Delhi Sultanate. So which all dynasties they ruled at this point of time and their contribution. So the very first was the slave dynasty. So slave period, we will look at the art of slave period. Then after slave is the Khilji period. Then after Khilji is the Tughlaq period. And see, we are going to see only their architecture. So let me write at the very first place, this entire architecture of the medieval period is known as Indo-Islamic architecture. So you can write over here that it is Indo-Islamic architecture. So then Tughlaq period, I hope it is all visible to you. And then after Tughlaq period, next one would be the Sayyid period. And then after the Sayyid, the last one is the Lodi period. If you want to write the dates, okay? So Delhi Sultanate, it all happened in between. I hope it will be visible. Let me write with this color. In 1206 to 1526. That is the entire Delhi Sultanate period, and this is AD. Okay? So 1206 to, is it visible? Let me check. Okay. I think it is faintly visible, but anyways, if it is not visible, so I can change the color. That's the one problem with this color screen. So let me check that which would be visible. Chalo. So white is the most visible one. So slave period, just give me 1 minute. So slave period is 1206. Yes, this is visible. to 1290, and Khilji period from 1290 to 1320, and these all are in ADs. So Tughlaq period, I have not kept so much of space over here, so I'm writing at this side, Tughlaq period 1320 to 1414. This is the Tughlaq period. And Sayyid period, so this is 1414 to 1451, and the last one Lodhi 1451 to 1526. Then, so I'm writing this because you guys have not gone through the ancient classes, medieval classes, so इसलिए dates otherwise जरूरी नहीं है, ठीक है. Then come to the provinces. Then, so in provinces, which all provincial styles, and here we are will not be quoting, the overall age would be in between 1206 to 1526. So here the provinces would be, let's start with the Bengal art, then after Bengal, Jaunpur art, Malwa art, and the last one would be Bijapur art. Malwa art and Bijapur art. Bijapur art. So this is one such part. Please do mention. So this is what is during the Delhi Sultanate period, that which all dynasties, and in fact this is the way we will be proceeding into this topic. So contribution of the slave dynasty, Khilji dynasty towards the architecture, Tughlaq and Sayyid and the Lodhi, and same we will move into the provincial architecture. So the Bengal art, Jaunpur art, Malwa art, Bijapur art, that's it. So let's come to the next phase of the architecture. Okay? So one we wrote as Delhi Sultanate, and the second we'll be writing the Mughal period. So Mughal period. And once again, Mughal also we are going to divide like this only. So divide like this only, meaning the initiative. There are so many dynasties here in the Delhi Sultanate, but Mughal is just one dynasty. So here we will talk about the contribution of those rulers, Mughal rulers, and then after what was there in the provinces. So what was there in the provinces? So first of all, so here I am writing Mughal style. Mughal style. So period wise, Akbar's period, number 1, Akbar's period, then Jahangir, and then would be the Shah Jahan. So Jahangir and Shah Jahan, and then the last one would be Aurangzeb. So we'll see that architectural contribution of these all people in their period. So Mughal style, and this is one, and then the second type would be the provincial style. Provincial style. So in Mughal period, provincial style, and in provincial style we will be looking at two styles, the Sikh architecture and the Rajput architecture. So Sikh architecture and Rajput architecture. And when it comes to the Mughal period, so Mughal period is from 1526 to 1707. The place from where, the year from where we started the modern history, 1707. So please write it. And if you want, I can write it over here, their ages also. चलो, anyways, I must write, ठीक है? So I am writing it, ठीक है? Akbar's period. So Akbar's period started from 1556 to 1605. Jahangir 1605 to 1627. Shahjahan 1627 to 1659. And Aurangzeb from 1659 to 1707. So that's it. That's all about the medieval period. Please write it quickly so that I can move to the British period. I'll give you 30 seconds, or let me enable your response screen so that I'll get to know that you are done with the writing part. Fine. So I have enabled this screen. So let me know that when you are done with the same, do let me know. Oh, very fast. It seems like that I'm seeing something on the stock market exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, and the prices of commodities are rising. Wow, बहुत बढ़िया. So not just writing part, but I do want to know that you must have understood this particular kind of classification. Okay? So let's move to the next part of the classification. So next part of the classification, I'm moving this at this end, and then the last one is the British period. So the modern and the British period. So let's write modern period, and in this the British period. British period. So basically there are two things which will be studying: the initiative of the Britishers and then the Indian initiative. So here also two divisions I am making. So here at the very first place we can write British initiative. And this part I would mention Indian initiative. So when it comes to the British initiative, so the number one style of the architecture that Britishers introduced, it is known as Indo-Gothic style of architecture. Indo-Gothic style of architecture. Okay? So this was the number one style which was introduced by the Britishers. And number second was Neo-Roman style. So number second was Neo-Roman style. So these two styles of architecture were introduced by the British in India, and obviously the duration. So when we start talking about the duration, so duration would be that we can count it from the end of the 1800. We can say it from the 1800 till 1947. So that is the British period. So 1800 to 1947. Then when it comes to Indian initiative, so here only one initiative we will talk about, and that is the Awadh architecture. So Awadh architecture. So at the time of the British, the Lucknow architecture is one of the finest architecture which we call Awadh architecture. So we will see that what is there in the Awadh architecture. So these are the topics that we are going to see in this upcoming 6 classes. Okay? So these all are the topics which we are going to see in the upcoming 6 classes. Please get yourself acquainted with this particular chart.
Color therapy, ये सारी चीजें.
You will get to know everything. अभी पहले चार्ट बना लो, Bharati and everyone. So first you create the chart, you'll get to understand everything. ठीक?
बट अब आ चुका है, मैं कोशिश करती हूँ कि प्यार नाल ट्रीट कर लूँ जितना हो सकता है, क्योंकि हो सकता है शायद वो जेन्युइन भी हो, अगर जेन्युइन है तो उसकी फीलिंग हर्ट ना हो, मैं ये ट्राई करती हूँ। तो इसलिए
So this is overall.
कोशिश क्या, बहुत ही कोशिश करती हूँ। रॉकी तो रहता ही है ब्रॉड पे, बहुत सारे लोगों को पसंद आते हैं, बहुत सारे लोग बात करते हैं, मैं कोशिश करती हूँ प्यार नाल ट्रीट करें। ठीक है,
So this is what we are going to study in entire syllabus. If anybody has missed any part, so you can have a look at the same, though it seems like that it is written in a very, not seems like, it is in a very small font. So overall architecture, with your permission, let's begin with the very first one, that is architecture and sculpture with Indus Valley civilization. Chalo. So without wasting time, let's begin with the Indus Valley civilization. So let me have a look at that. Done. So let's write next part. So most of you are done with the same. Let me check. Yeah, now fine. Write the heading Indus Valley civilization. Number 1 we are going to study is Indus Valley civilization.